let's talk about red flags. So it's important to remember that red flags are never random. Okay. What they are is frequency alerts. It's basically saying that there's something in your energetic field or psychological field or your somatic field, meaning your physical body, that are telling you that something in your field is not a vibrational match for you, or that you are not a vibrational match for that field. Okay. So our field is constantly transmitting signals, not just good, not just bad, not just everything in between, but it's broadcasting signals about our boundaries, our internal wounds, our physical wounds, our expectations, what we expect from other people or even ourselves. And it also broadcasts our level of alignment. And remember, your environment does the same thing. And I'm going to give you guys kind of a fun example. So recently I had my house up on the market. I was going to sell it. And one of the things that people kept saying when they walked into my house, well, two things. One was that it wasn't their house, right? They didn't have a vibrational match for this house. But they were also saying that it felt kind of cold. It felt empty. It didn't feel like a home, which made sense because at the time I was going through a lot of stuff and I really didn't want to sell my house. I love my house. I love where I live. So, like, I really didn't want to sell it. So, the environment was not a vibrational match for their physical vibration. Okay. So, I ended up taking it off the market and I still live here. But red flags appear when these two things collide. When these two different broadcasts, these two different frequencies collide with one another, a red flag appears. So tonight we're not just talking about red flags as like this sort of abstract experience, but we're going to talk about the emotional activations that usually accompany a red flag. So we're going to be talking not just about frequency as we usually do, but we're also going to be talking about what we do to attract frequency. Because misalignment is not accidental, it's an energetic communication, and sometimes even energies can miscommunicate. And this is really important because right now everything in our planetary alignment, and I'm going to go deeper into this, so like this is like just the surface, just the introduction, but everything in our planetary system right now is encouraging us to be clear communicators, to be in coherence. And it doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree with each other, but just that we are able to communicate clearly with one another. So think about red flags as sort of this multi-layered alert system. And it's inside this entire energetic structure or architecture inside of us. So we're going to talk about like physical and spiritual here. So we have our aura, which we've talked about briefly in a previous live stream. So I encourage you to go look at that a little bit later if you don't remember what I'm talking about, or if you're new to this channel. We have our intuitive field, which is our unconscious mind, and we have our nervous system. And our nervous system is our clearest indicator whenever there's any sort of misalignment or any sort of red flag or anything in our field that just does not quite fit. So when we have all of these things, our auric field, our intuitive mind, and our unconscious mind, and our nervous system, we have all of these things activating at once, there is a clear sign that there's a vibrational mismatch between you, the people around you, and or the spaces around you. Tonight, we are going to decode the architecture. But tomorrow, we're going to shift into boundaries and rapid alignment and like, what do we do when red flags pop up? Tomorrow, by the time the series is over, you guys will know exactly how to recalibrate your energy quickly, efficiently, and in your highest good, highest form so that you can move into alignment. Okay? Okay. Please feel free to ask any questions along the way. Also, please make sure you like this video. Liking any videos on YouTube tells the algorithm that we should like be out there and more people should listen to us. And as you guys know, we are working on the 300 mark. And once we get to 300 subscribers, I will be offering free readings to anyone who comes to the live stream. So yeah, make sure you like. And it like makes me feel good when you guys like stuff. It's like, oh, they like me. They really like me. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the 5 activation points of red flags. Thank you. Okay. So the 5 activation points of red flags. Now, these 5 points are not in our conscious awareness unless we pull them into our conscious awareness. Okay. So our default mode is to not necessarily recognize that these things are happening. Okay. It is a natural system. It happens just without our awareness, without us having to say, hey, do this thing. Okay. So the first is our auric field. So remember, our aura is our energetic field. It naturally expands out when we feel safe, inspired, and connected. And it contracts in, comes closer when we feel something off. So, like, you can literally do this right now with me if you feel like it. I want you to talk, just, or think about something that brings you joy, something that makes you happy. And when you feel that, so like even me, I'm going like this, going out, right? When we think about things that we like, we naturally just move our energy out. But when you think about something that makes you nervous, I literally just automatically bring my arms in. Think about something that makes you nervous or something that's not in alignment or something that you just know isn't right for you. You come in on yourself. That is your body's natural way of experiencing things that are in alignment and things that are not. It's literally happening outside of our awareness. It's something our body just naturally does. Okay. So when we contract, as in our auric field comes in closer to us, we feel a shrinking feeling, a heaviness, a literal pulling inward. See, like for me, I feel like a sucking feeling in the pit of my stomach, usually. When something comes into my auric field or a fear comes into my auric field or something, I literally feel this sucking feeling in my stomach. It's really unnerving. And there's a sort of dizziness or a losing of your center. It's where you start dropping stuff. It's where you start um, like running into things. All of those things come when your auric field becomes contracted. And there's this feeling of suddenly being small. See, I'm a small person anyway, but there are times where I feel small. That's awesome. Not awesome, but you know what I mean. That you feel it in your stomach too. It's really good to have this sort of in your awareness because remember, it's not naturally in our awareness. So when we start talking about it and you're like, oh, I feel that. Oh, I understand that. Now it's in your awareness. So when it does happen, you can do something with it, right? So when you are in contraction, your auric field is saying, hey, something here is not right. Something here is not aligned with you, with your values, with your unconscious motivations, with your manifestations, with anything. Something here is not right. Now, there's this, and you guys can debate on this if you want to at a later time, not right now, but there's this sort of idea that you know what the energy of your home feels like. So if you walk into your home and somebody's been there, there's this feeling, right? There's like an energy left over. So like when had my house up on the market, I felt this a lot when I would come home. I'd be like, ugh, somebody was here, and my dogs would all run through the house trying to find out where they were. It was really cute. But that is the same thing happening in our auric field, right? It is telling us that something was here or is here that doesn't belong. And it tells us, like, hey, you need to pay attention. Okay. So the next thing is our nervous system. So remember, your nervous system literally will tell you everything long before your unconscious/conscious mind will ever tell you. Because your nervous system is your earliest warning system. That's literally its purpose. So, like when a lot of people talk about anxiety, like I'm anxious, I don't know why I'm anxious. This is a nervous system activation. And it shows up as tightness in your chest, that dropping in your stomach, that sudden tension in your neck, or tightening in your shoulders. There's a shortening of your breath, which typically stays in your chest. And there's a micro freeze response. This is that sort of hesitation moment. And I talked about that in my short earlier today when I talked about how the universe is rewarding action over hesitation. But if your nervous system is activated, you won't be able to take action because it's in micro freeze. You can't necessarily move until you deal with whatever is in the way, right? And so the nervous system activation is telling you to pay attention to whatever it is, whether it's in your environment, in your inner world, or, you know, wherever it is interpersonally. Could be somebody that you're really connected to, also, which kind of leads us to the intuitive piece. So it's important to remember that your intuition is picking up subtle cues in your environment and the people around you. This is a tone shift. This is micro expressions. This is your energetic inconsistencies. This is when you say, like, that person is saying one thing, but acting this totally other way, right? And there's an emotional incongruence. So, like, I used to be really bad about this, guys. Like, somebody would say, "Oh, Angelina, how's your day going?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's fine." But, like, I'd really be super upset or, like, really need to talk about something or just, like harboring something inside of me that I really needed to talk about, but, like, I didn't wanna talk about it with that person. So I would say, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine," even though internally I was, like, super sad or mad or whatever. And there's a psychic bandwidth drain. And this one is really important for the empaths out there, the intuitives out there, because when you have a psychic bandwidth drain, you don't even know what's going on. Like, it's like something in your environment, but like you can't see it, you can't sense it, you don't know where it's coming from necessarily. It's just you feeling exhausted or feeling dizzy or feeling like the rug's been pulled out from under your feet, but you don't know why. Okay. But when that happens, that is your intuition saying, hey, something is really off here. And even if you can't name it, you are right. And you need to trust that and be aware of what's happening around you. It is scary. So we're on number 4. Number 4 of the architecture is the unconscious pattern recognition. Remember, your unconscious mind is always taking in information far quicker than your conscious mind. So, your unconscious mind stores every single experience that you've ever had, every piece of stimulus that you have ever taken in through your eyeballs or your physical sensation is being stored in your mind as either important or unimportant. It goes through your brain. And your unconscious mind is recognizing these patterns instantly because it has patterns it needs to recognize, right? Patterns of safety, patterns of fear, patterns of love, patterns of wealth, patterns of health, right? Your unconscious mind recognizes all these things and puts all these pictures together for you. So when your unconscious pattern recognition is activated, you might experience a lot of deja vu, a sudden discomfort or like just an uncomfortability with someone or something, an unexplained irritation, and an emotional activation. And we're going to talk a lot about emotional activations today because when you or I or anyone is in a constant state of unconscious activation, which is what we've been talking about. So, like, your nervous system is activated for a long time, you're psychically being drained for a long period of time, or more than one of these things is happening for a long period of time. There's no other way to handle this energy, this constant onslaught, other than an emotional activation until you come into awareness. So the last piece, the last piece of architecture that we need to talk about is the somatic markers. So, somatic is your body, right? So, anytime we talk about somatic, we're talking about the body signals or the body sensations or the body healing, right? Whatever it is we're talking about. So, your somatic markers are your body based signals that guide your making. So, these show up as your intuitive hits, your gut feelings, that sucking feeling that you feel. It could also be a somatic marker as well as an auric field um, opening, I guess. This could be your emotional spikes and any sort of physical sensation. So, like, remember the other day when we were talking about the higher self and we felt that physical sensation down our back? That's a physical sensation, right? That's a somatic marker. And whenever you have a somatic marker, it is your system saying this thing matters. It's not necessarily saying this is good or bad. Like you have to make that your own decision on that. But just the sensation itself calls for your attention. Okay. So let's do our first activity. Get excited, guys. Remember, these activities are like for fun. They are only if you want to. You don't have to do any of these activities. Although I will say, and you guys can correct me if this is wrong, it seems like they really help and you guys do like them, which is why I keep doing them. So, I encourage you to do them because I work really hard on them, but you don't have to. Okay. Okay. So, if you are in a space where you can put your feet flat on the floor, then do so. I have a stool now, so I don't have to move my chair. So, begin this exercise by inhaling through your nose and exhaling out your mouth. So, and allow yourself to breathe in clarity and breathe out any distortion. And when you feel comfortable, allow your eyes to close. Continue to breathe in clarity and out distortion. Imagine around you is a bright energy. And with each breath in and out, you can feel this energy brightening by 5%. And as this energy brightens with each and every breath, you can feel that energy becoming stronger and stronger. Continuing to breathe in and out. Stronger and stronger. Brighter and brighter. You are now entering a space where your intuition is louder, where your tolerance gets lower, but in a way that is empowering, that makes you strong, that brings you into a space of awareness. Feel yourself aligning now to the highest, strongest, and bravest version of you. With one final breath in and out, allow your eyes to open and bring yourself back into the space, back into the live stream. Now, let me know how that was for you guys. What did you notice in your body, in your mind, as you felt your energies becoming stronger and stronger with your breath? Feel so relaxed. I love doing those exercises with you guys because I can just feel my energy like, that heaviness I was feeling from earlier. There's a lot of pressure associated with doing these outlines. It's okay. It's worth it. Still driving. Well, you can do it later. But you can still get value from breathing. Did you breathe? Okay. I didn't close my eyes. That's probably for the best. Okay. Let's move on. So, if we can all agree that red flags are vibrational mismatches that interact with our structures, which we just talked about the 5 structures, then we are empowered to make adjustments to that structure and to our vibrational frequency as often as needed. Because red flags show up when energies are incompatible with current or emerging identities or environments, then whenever we feel these sensations, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, we can sort of diagnose the misalignment. And instead of going into emotional activation, which is when we basically are saying there's danger occurring, we say, okay, well, actually, this is a misalignment. Where is the misalignment? Who is the misalignment? What is misaligned? Is it me? Like with my story about going into the beauty store, I was the one who was misaligned. Maybe. I don't know if that's true. But I think I was kind of grumpy when I went in there. I will admit to it. Remember your intuition, your unconscious mind, your mirror neurons. Notice frequency changes and patterns far before the conscious thinking mind does. We notice always when people are not in alignment. We may not consciously notice or do something about it in the moment, but our unconscious mind always knows. And this is why we sometimes we say things or we think things or somebody says something to us and we go like, that was weird. Why did they say that? What did they mean by that? I'm going to give you guys an example. Are you guys familiar with backhanded compliments? So backhanded compliments is essentially this thing where I say like, "Oh, that dress looks really good on you for being so short." Or, "Oh yeah, your hair looks really cute considering you did it yourself." Right? It's a backhanded compliment. It sounds nice, but the reality of what they're saying is like clearly not actually nice, right? That's when our intuition or our pattern recognition is saying like something's not right here. Even though that person said something nice, it clearly didn't feel nice. There was something about it that didn't actually align with how I feel, right? And the truth and the fact is that we're not equipped to deal with red flags. We are not taught as children, as adults, how to deal with red flags. That's because most of the time we don't even notice them. And if we do notice them, we're already well past a reasonable threshold or a baseline of how to even deal with it, right? Because it's already been going on for so long. So by the time we know that red flags are happening, our emotional and nervous system activations have been triggered or activated for so long by that point that the only way that we really know how to deal with these things is to go into our own red flag mode. Let me get into that here. And I'm laughing because I I do this. We all do this. And we should normalize it a little bit, but we should probably teach our children how to deal with emotional activations. Anyway, okay. And by we, I mean me. I'm only talking. I only ever point the finger back at myself. So please don't get mad at me. So, emotional activations are energetic red flags in and of themselves because excuse me, emotional activations are a clear indicator that we've been ignoring or overlooking red flags for a really long time. Our nervous systems can't stay in such a heightened mode all of the time. And we are taught that the only way to recalibrate our own emotional activation is either through emotional outbursts or emotional subduing. And we do that with weed or nicotine or alcohol or other substances that bring us down, right? Instead of allowing ourselves to just process things, we tell ourselves, like, whoa, 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 that processing is a little bit too big. That processing is a little bit too intense. Nobody's going to be able to handle that. So you need to just bring it on down, right? And whatever means necessary, bring yourself down. So remember that architecture that we've already discussed. These things happen on the unconscious level. They're programmed into us by our environment, but they're also things that we engage in because we don't know how to deal with our emotions, because we were never taught how to deal with our emotions. We were told that emotions are bad in some way. That then we start manifesting our own red flags. So not only are we experiencing red flags from our environment or other people, but we're also throwing our own energy out there, which is creating emotional activations in other people who then are like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with that person. They're making me anxious, right? Like the lady at the store made me anxious and I was making her anxious, and we were both just making each other anxious. So, emotional activations is how our inner world makes our conscious feelings physical. It's really what they are. Whenever you are emotionally activated, you are making your inner world and your unconscious awareness, your unconscious thoughts, your unconscious feelings, and you're making them physical. So, emotional activations it's not overreacting. It's not emotional. Like when you're like, oh, you're so sensitive. No, it's an energetic alarm system going off. It's a indicator that you have been in a vibrational mismatch for way too long. And because we haven't dealt with it, that energetic mismatch has upgraded to a dangerous level. And because it's at a dangerous level, our nervous system, our mental systems are saying, you need to do something about this right now. Because where it wasn't dangerous before, it is now upgraded to dangerous. So emotional activations are recognized as, so like whenever we're in an environment, right? A psychologist or therapist or somebody is going to say, "Oh, that's emotional activation," when your reactions seem louder than the moment. When your clarity drops instantly. So you're no longer, you all of a sudden go from logical to emotional, and there's nothing sort of in between. It's the 0 to 100. When your emotions feel disproportionate in the moment. They're not disproportionate, but they feel that way because everybody else around you is going like, "Well, that wasn't that big of a deal. Why is that person freaking out?" They didn't see the 75 things that happened before that, right? Emotional activations are when your body is responding faster than your thoughts. Because your body has already been experiencing all of these things and your thoughts haven't caught up with it. It's when your energy shifts without a physical explanation. And a lot of times when somebody goes into emotional activation, it is their trauma response. So if you're a fight, flight, freeze, flirt person, that is what you're going to go into when you are in an emotional activation. Because your trauma response is your emotional memory and your energetic history saying something is not right, something is not familiar, or rather, the whole situation is familiar, right? And that familiarity has proven to be unsafe over the course of your life. So, to put this in a more condensed way, your emotional activations is when your emotions go from 0 to 100 without a physical explanation because your energy field is basically waving a cosmic red flag saying something is not right, has not been right, and needs to be made right because the last time this was left to just do what it was going to do, bad things happened. And whatever that means, okay? For different situations. Now, I want you guys to drop in the chat. Drop in the chat if in the last 7 days you have experienced a red flag in on any proportion, whether this is like a little thing or a big thing. Not necessarily that you had to do anything, but just that you were like, "Oh, that's a red flag right there. That thing that that person's doing or that thing that I'm doing or that thing that that boss just said or whatever. That's a red flag." I know you said that earlier, but yeah, me too. I got yelled at the Ace Hardware the other day. Yesterday. Made me feel like a little kid. Anyway, yeah, that happen all the time. So let's talk about the layers of red flags. Because when we understand our emotional activations, we also have to understand at what layer we've been activated. So there are 5 layers. We're just in fives today. I don't know. 5 is all about change. So I guess that's where we're at. So I want you guys to imagine yourself sort of in the center. Okay. And in the center, from the center out, there are 5 layers. We have a core layer, a relational layer, an environmental layer, a planetary layer, and a historical layer, which is also known as like a karmic layer. Okay? So at the core layer, which is like the layer just outside of us, we have, well, I guess the core would be the center. So we'll say the core is you. Is your identity, your intuition, your nervous system, and your inner truth. And I want us to think about inner truth like your higher self that's guiding you and aligning you and supporting you in your values, all of those things. Okay. When you are recognizing red flags in your core layer, those are typically where red flags are the most intense. It is where they are the most immediate and the most undeniable. So, like the lady at the store. So, this is a nice lady, okay? Like, she actually was the first boss I ever had. So, when I was 13 years old and I started working, she was my boss. And she was giving me instructions on how to set up my rewards card, and I did it wrong. And she like went into like the way our interaction was when I was 13. Okay. She made me feel so stupid. And I was just like, my face was all red and I got super embarrassed. And I just was like, I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best here. But it was really embarrassing. And then everybody was like, I was like the only one shopping. So it was like 10 employees all standing around me, shaming me for being so stupid. And it was really intense. It was immediate. I just wanted to like run away, but I was like, no, you will not. I'm actually like feeling hot right now just thinking about it, but true story. So, when our identity, our intuition, and our inner truth is violated in some way, we have a reaction to it. It's funny now. I'm not mad at her. I get it. It's fine. Let's not get hung up on the details. But the point is just, it was at that core level and it was felt. Now, the second layer is our relational layer. So, this is our friends, our relationships, our family dynamics. So, like, even this lady, her, where she was on the relational level layer, even though she impacted me at the core layer. So, see, this gets really complicated when you start looking at all of these layers and seeing where things fall in. But these red flags in the relational layer with our friendships, our relationships, our family dynamics, they become confusing, draining, and destabilizing. We start asking ourselves questions like, why do I feel so different around this person? Why is this person so draining? Why do I never feel like I know where I stand with this person? It's on the relational layer. The third layer is our environmental layer. Oh, I just realized I bet you I know why that sound keeps happening on the microphone. It's probably my water bottle. It's really heavy. The environmental layer is our work, our home, and our social settings. So, whenever we experience red flags in this layer, they manifest as stress, feelings of overwhelm, and they're things that slowly break away our boundaries. I work from home, which is really nice. But when I have to go into work for any reason, I always feel overwhelmed, even when it's not overwhelming, because it almost never is overwhelming. But I associate going to work as overwhelming. So even when it's not, I expect it, right? And when we feel these things in this layer, in the environmental layer, what our red flag is telling us is that for whatever reason, the environment that we're stepping into is not supportive. Okay. Now, all of this is just information for now. We're going to talk tomorrow about how to apply it. We're going to talk a little bit about how to apply it today, but we're going to talk really in depth on how to apply it tomorrow. So, the next layer is the planetary layer. This is the cosmic pressure. This is the retrogrades and the transits and the full moons and the equinoxes and the eclipses and all of those things. All of that is on this planetary layer. So we had the core, we had the relational, we had the environment, and now we have planetary. So we're moving farther and farther away. Exactly. The nodes of fate are all in this planetary layer. Actually, I'm gonna say no to that. That's not actually true. The nodes of fate is actually on the karmic layer. It's on the historical layer. Yeah, I know. Fun, right? See how complicated it all is? This is why we're doing it in two sections and not one. So we have the planetary layer. These are red flags that we feel that are super amplified, super dramatic, and super fast moving. These are also the ones that are incredibly ungrounding because they're hitting us in every direction. Like we literally just had a full moon, shadow period, retrograde. We have other planets. We have Saturn in retrograde and Pluto in retrograde. It's like 4 other planets. We've got nodes of fate. We've got portals open, we've got eclipses coming up, which is it's like it's crazy, right? And it's happening all around us and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And so we kind of come into these moments where we're like, why are all of these things happening? Like I don't even go anywhere. I don't even talk to anybody and yet I still feel drained. I still feel exhausted. I still feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, right? It's because there's something happening planetarily, most likely. Now, the fifth and final layer is our historical layer, also known as the karmic layer. This layer is our past traumas, our old patterns, our unresolved experiences that are in the unconscious. Okay. So these are all things that like we are not aware of, that we don't think about, that are sort of on default. I mean, there are things that like pop up every once in a while. We're like, oh yeah, I remember that, or oh yeah, I think about that, or oh yeah, I know that's still impacting me. But they're not as tangible as the other things because they're not thought about as often or as impactful in the short term as the other things. So these red flags on the historical or the karmic layer feel like triggering. They feel like patterns, like familiar, like, oh, why am I going through this again? They're incredibly emotionally charged. And there's those sort of deja vu moments of like, I've done this before. I've been here before. I've already moved past this before. Why am I doing this again? If you're experiencing defaults often, then it actually is at the core layer versus any other layer, which means there's a large, uh, what's the word? Not opportunity, but certainty, I guess. We'll just say certainty. There's a certainty that you're not grounded, ungrounded in the self, right? Because if you're operating in old patterns or defaults, that means that there's a disconnection from the authentic version of you. So remember, there's three ways in which we ground. We ground in the earth, we ground in the moment, and we ground in the self. And most people, whenever they talk about grounding, what they're talking about is like going outside or mindfulness, like being in the moment. And I would say probably 98% of people overlook being grounded in the self. And that's usually the one that we're the most ungrounded in because it's really hard to stay grounded in the self because sometimes ourselves are like, got a lot going on, you know? So these layer interactions, because they're all interacting with each other, right? Like my store example, my core layer was activated and my relational layer was activated and my environmental was activated and the planetary layer was activated and the karmic because that was my old boss, right? So literally every single layer was activated in that situation. The more layers that are activated, the more severe the red flags or more severe the emotional activation becomes. Because it's all interacting with the core, with the self, with the identity, and everything else. So, here are some examples besides my own. If you've recently left a sort of toxic relationship, then the relational layer would be hypersensitive, right? So if you met a prospective suitor, then you would be able to spot any sort of toxic red flags instantly. Oh, that person drinks too much. Oh, that person smokes too much. Oh, that person doesn't tie their shoes. They're probably super messy. Right. Whatever. Because that is a wound that is open, right? So anything that reminds you of that situation is going to be a red flag. If you've ever escaped a toxic job, your environmental layer will be activated. So if you get a new job and that new job starts acting like the old job, making you work too long or forcing overtime or not giving you the raises they're supposed to or forgetting to give you a performance review, right? It's going to activate those red flags that say this is a toxic environment and you're going to be more likely to quit, to quiet quit, to set boundaries with that job or to have some sort of open dialogue about why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, or you might just experience resentment, creating a further toxic environment. Now, we've been in a really heavy planetary transit, And these planetary layers amplify everything. So if you have like any layer already activated, the planetary transits are going to make it like times a bajillion. So these red flags are going to feel louder, faster, bigger, more intense because they are, because the planets are making them, because it's making us heal. So if you've been feeling a lot of old traumas, a lot of emotional activations, a lot of frustration, a lot of draining, a lot of anything, remember you're not alone in those things. So as you broadcast, remember other people are feeling it too. So the more you feel it, the more they feel it. And these emotional red flags, they create environments that are highly activated, meaning not in logic and only in emotion. And the sharper those environments feel, the more urgent or like dangerous our nervous system makes these red flags. So, this isn't meant to be dramatic. It's meant to bring the unconscious patterns or the unconscious activations conscious so that we can do something with them. Because once we come to a space of awareness, we then can start healing, we can start deactivating, we can start resolving our energy projections, and we can help others to resolve theirs as well. We can be in a space of grace and compassion. And instead of being activated, we come back to a balance between emotion and logic. So, as we understand how red flags work across these different energetic layers, we can explore how they manifest in our real life, in our daily lives, as we start interacting with people who are close to us or people that we don't even know, right? These red flags are subtle ways of our energies interacting with us, not to be dramatic, although most of the times they end up dramatic, but instead as a reliable shift indicator. Meaning, whenever we see a red flag, we can say to ourselves, what needs to be shifted? What needs to be integrated? What do I need to do with this thing? What am I not paying attention to that's important? And that takes accountability, that takes awareness and intention. Because remember, everything is awareness, intention, and divine action. But we can't do that unless we become aware, right? Okay, let's move on because I want to do our activity. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, we're almost there. So, there are 3 different kinds of red flags. We have interpersonal red flags, which are interpersonal, meaning between 2 or more people. Yes, free will is a reminder. But free will requires awareness, intention, and divine action. Because if we're not being aware and we are operating in default, then we are not operating in free will. Default and free will are not the same thing. You're absolutely right. So these interpersonal red flags are between 1 or more or 2 or more people. And oftentimes we can recognize when we're in an interpersonal red flag because there's an emotional extraction, meaning an energetic imbalance, meaning some person is taking and one person is giving. And so there isn't a emotional reciprocity, meaning equal give and take. So oftentimes when we are in an interpersonal red flag extraction situation, we leave that interaction feeling drained, sick, off, just off, because our energy knows the imbalance before we do. Our unconscious mind already knows what that picture looks like, but we can't necessarily put our finger on it until we understand how energy kind of works. Once we bring it into awareness, we can say like, oh, that person made me feel, or I allowed that person to drain me because I was giving too much. I should have found balance. Next time I see that person, I'm going to find balance. It might also manifest as identity shrinking, which is where I make myself smaller, quieter, less expressive, less confident, so that person can feel good, which is your energy contracting in response to someone else's energy. Yeah, so if one person is giving and the other person isn't letting them in, then one person is over giving and the other person doesn't want it, right? So even if they're not taking it, there's still an energy imbalance. And maybe that person, maybe their intention is to say, like, you're over giving and I don't want the things that you're giving me, which is a boundary. And so if somebody is establishing a boundary and the other person isn't honoring the boundary, then we are out of reciprocity, right? Good question. Now, that's actually the next point I have here, which is energetic dominance. So, energetic dominance is when one person overrides the other person's boundaries or presence. This might feel like overshadowing, pressuring, subtle control, or just like subtle manipulations. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but that's what it is. Um, it's not always intentional. In fact, I'm a Capricorn. As a Capricorn, I do this sometimes accidentally, and then people have to be like, Angelina, back off. And I have to be like, okay, my bad. Sorry, you're right. I don't ever want to be that like that. So like I appreciate the reminders. Not everybody does, but I do. Because it's not always intentional. Sometimes we're just trying to help. But the body, the other person registers that physically, emotionally as energetic dominance. And people do that to me all the time too. And it's like an important reminder to be like, hey, we are both sovereign beings, right? Now, there's confusion spikes, which are important because confusion spikes happen when we are unaware of the energies that are going in and out. It's the first sign of misalignment. It's the first sign of being ungrounded, is when we have that brain fog or self-doubt. Okay. So when interpersonal red flags show up, it's important for you to look at yourself first to take accountability and notice where the boundaries need to be set. Are you violating them? Is somebody else violating them? Are you guys both violating them? Because that happens all the time, especially in long-term relationships or friendships or family. Now, next we have professional red flags. This is the environmental piece. This is whenever there's that sort of power structure or power ladder that we talked about a few weeks ago. And oftentimes this is because there is a literal power structure and like because there is a power structure, there is a boundary erosion. And once there's a boundary erosion, it's like I love my mom, but this is like the best example. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, mom. Is whenever I try to establish like that like I'm a sovereign being or something, or like I want my mom to like be nice to me or something. I don't know. I'm trying to like not make this bad because it's not bad. But she'll say to me, I'm the mom. I'm the mom. You're the kid. It's like, okay, but I'm an adult. I'm a grown up. But there's a power imbalance. There's a power erosion, a boundary erosion that is 34 years in the making, right? It's a battle I will never win, which is why it's annoying. But it's when expectations shift without consent. Yeah, I don't like that game either, but it is what it is. So where you're suddenly responsible for more than you agreed to. And the change that's presented is normal. It becomes normal. It's normalized. So your energy feels the imbalance immediately. And I want to be clear, my mom is my friend. We're cool. There's no problem. Okay? It's just that's the relationship. And there's an energetic extraction that happens in the workplace too when you work closely with a boss or when the boss has certain expectations. I'll give you guys a fun example. I used to work in Seattle, which is about an hour and a half away from where I currently live, in traffic. So like where I live, it like every day it'd be like 3 hours of traffic. And my boss told me that if I couldn't get to work by 8 o'clock in the morning every day, then they were going to fire me, which was crazy because my previous boss had already told me that as long as on the honor system, I leave my house by 7:30 every day. Maybe it was 9:30. I had to be at work at 9:30. But as long as I leave my house by 7:30 every day, then it was like on the honor system. But when we had a switchover, the new boss was like, didn't agree to that. And so I was like, okay, well, there's no way I can guarantee that I'm here at 9 o'clock every day or whatever the time was. And she was like, this is a boundary. This is information. So you either are going to honor this boundary or you're going to have to find a new place to work. So I don't actually feel like that was a reasonable boundary. We're going to talk about like reasonable boundaries tomorrow, but whenever we talk about boundary erosion, that is the epitome of a boundary erosion, right? So that person is taking over my boundary by saying you have to do this thing or else, and I'm saying there's no way I can honor that because there's no way I could honor that because traffic is insane. So what ends up happening whenever we have these power imbalances, we see a red flag, we see that somebody is violating their authority. It makes us feel small, silenced, overridden, and our energy will not respond well to being dominated. Because remember what we talked about the other day with the full moon when it's like forcing you. Who wants to be forced? Who wants to be dominated? It's not going to work, right? So there's a clarity distortion that happens and it's subtle. And that kind of manifests into resentment. So once the instructions change, the expectation shift, we're told one thing, but then we're corrected into following something else. Our intuition picks up on these little instabilities, these little subtleties. And it does it way before our mind does. Way before our mind can articulate that something isn't right, our intuition does. And so responsibility becomes just the sole responsibility of one person carrying the weight of satisfying boundaries while the other person doesn't have to. Makes it really difficult. Now, I want to be clear, there's things that happen psychologically. This isn't just spiritual. There's actual changes that occur in the brain when we are operating in red flag mode for far too long. So the amygdala becomes overactive, meaning it becomes like hypervigilant, meaning it threat detects all the time. So even when you're home, even when you're calm, even when things are good, your amygdala is still threat protecting. That's why some people get such terrible sleep, is because their amygdala is literally in activation mode. It is detecting even when you're home because it's been told it needs to be active. Like, what if I'm late for work? If I'm late for work, I won't make money. If I don't make money, I won't have a house. And if I don't have a house, I won't have food. And, so down the line we go. Our mirror neurons also become emotionally contagious, meaning every single time we see that person, we're filled with an emotional response. And as soon as we're filled with an emotional response, they're going to be filled with an emotional response because of mirror neurons. And so far down the line we go. Then we have cognitive dissonance, which results in resentment. That's when our intuition and our environment are in conflict with each other. And then our body systems literally start warning us. That's when we start having anxiety and weight gain and hair loss and food fluctuations and lacking sleep, right? So your nervous system is always tracking the truth. Always. Even if our conscious thinking mind is behind, your nervous system knows. So, like I mentioned, I'm just going to do really briefly. The planetary pressure that we're experiencing right now is not the red flag. The full moons, the Saturn, the Neptune, the Pluto, the North Nodes, all of these things, those are not the red flags. Those things are revealing the red flags and amplifying the red flags because it wants us to the planets function to help us recalibrate. So Saturn is operating in a restructure zone asking us to restructure our life around honesty, integrity, and accountability. Neptune is dissolving these old systems, which is why so many people are ending relationships right now, or like really being faced with grief and ending and starting something new. Pluto transforms us, and our North Node is redirecting us. It's actually really cool when you think about it. When we stop resisting it, we stop fighting against it, right? Then we stop clashing against it. We stop being in activation mode all the time. So let me leave you with this to consider. Tomorrow, we're going to talk all about boundaries and self-worth and recalibration. But for now, think about the ways that you're interacting with your world. What do you expect from yourself and others? Consider what in your environment is being amplified by you and what you are amplifying. Consider what's bringing you joy, what's activating you, and what in your life you would like to recalibrate. And tomorrow, when we talk about boundaries and recalibration, you will be prepared because you'll have thought of those things. That's what I have for you guys tonight as it pertains to red flags and boundaries and our spiritual awareness. Very interesting topic. Good. I'm glad you like it. I liked it. I was interested. I was thinking about it today, like, how many red flags have I overlooked? And am I going to keep overlooking red flags? The answer is no, I'm not. All right, guys, let's play a game. Good. We are going to start doing Sunday Q&As, guys. So if you guys think of questions after the live stream and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have asked this. Sunday afternoons, I haven't decided a time yet, but we can talk about it. We'll start doing more Q&As. So you guys can come back and be like, oh, remember when we talked about this in this live stream? Can you clarify, whatever? Okay. We're going to use my playing card deck, and then I'll pull some animal cards for us. All right. I have a card in front of me. I actually don't know what this card is. On the honor system, I have no idea. It's in front of me. I cannot see it because I like to play too. Okay, so this is a regular playing card. So we're going to guess red or black, heart, diamond, club, or spade. And I don't know if this is, it could be ace through king. I have no idea. And you only get one guess. I mean, within each category. No hedging bets this time. So we have a 5 of diamonds. We have a 10 of clubs. Anybody else want to go for it? Jack of hearts. Anyone else? What do I see? Oh, you only get one guess. So either pick the Jack of hearts or the ace of spades. That was weird, though. That was weird. Because I was thinking ace of clubs. 8 of clubs. Ooh, I was thinking that too. Okay, we ready? Everyone's got a guess in. I know I couldn't decide. I think it's a club. And I couldn't decide between the ace or the 8. Okay, ready? We're going to see together. I don't know what it is. Ooh. It is the king of hearts. Should have stuck with your first bet. Hooks. Yeah, so the person who would have been the closest had they not changed their mind. I always say first thought, best thought would have been hooks. And you were so down on yourself too. First thought, best thought. All right, guys, let's pull some animal cards for us as a collective. What do we as a collective need to hear today as we move through red flags and alignment? That's okay. It's very low stakes. Actually, not even low stakes, no stakes, because it's just for fun. Oh, you guys want to guess for these ones too? All right. I'm going to pull 3 cards. So far, there's 2. Snake. I don't think there's any snakes. Nope. Nope. There is brown and orange. Ooh. Dana killing it tonight. I'm not going to say what that means, which thing you've said that's right, but I'll give you guys 1 more minute. There's 3 cards with 3 different animals. You can also get any words because all of these cards have words on them or feelings. And then I'm going to read them to you, so don't worry. Ice. Ice, ice, baby. Do, 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 do. Bird. I'll give you guys 30 more seconds since I was singing. Sorry. Were you really? That's funny. Horse. No horses. You guys, I just realized I can't wait to show you this. This is super cute. Oh, let me do this. Okay. Ready? I don't think there's any tigers in this deck. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. We have the goose. We've actually been getting this card a lot. So there must be something here that we need to be talking about. I mean, we've been talking about tapping into our intuition and our inner knowing. And somebody said wisdom. Who said wisdom? Hook said wisdom. So I would probably closely relate that to this card. You are the brave traveler. Your soul knows the way. Be confident that you will achieve your destination. Loyal friends are always with you. Don't worry, you are blessed. Let yourself fly. I love this because I feel like we are building a community here and getting to know each other. And so, like, this card comes out of just being like, yeah, we are the youth of the nation. Okay, anyway. Then we have the giraffe. And this one's really cute. You guys, look, this little giraffe has little curly cues. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Oh, come on. Please. If I like block myself out. Yeah, there you go. Got little curly cues. I don't know. It's just natural. I don't know. That's a good question. So the giraffe is the visionary. Rise above earthly matters. Glide through life with grace. You are able to see the right path. Stand tall in your self-worth and love with a big heart, which is crazy because that's literally what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about self-worth and navigating red flags and integrating and all of these things from a place of self-worth and self-compassion and self-love. So that's fun. And then, who said bear? Who was it? Who said it? Somebody said bear. Well, anyway, here's the bear. The grizzly bear. Aw, that's okay. You can watch the replay. No pressure. Okay. Yeah, I think you both said bear. So the bear is about being indestructible. I honor my intuition and go where it leads. Love and gentleness are my real strength. I never give up. I will succeed. And that's kind of like, I love that because we have been talking about that all week. Like the energy, like one of the reasons I had to cancel yesterday was because the full moon was just too much. It was just too much, right? I just needed to sleep, which was crazy because it literally woke me up all night long. Every time I would wake up, I'd see the moon shining through my window, which was beautiful. But part of being indestructible is being able to recognize when you need to back off a little bit. And so I think as we come into these big planetary shifts and we have all this energy going around, we've got interpersonal energy and planetary energy, all this stuff, is to recognize that we are human as much as we like to think that we are superhuman. And in order to be the most powerful versions of ourselves, sometimes we have to know where the limits are. And we're also talking about boundaries. So that makes sense too. I'm not human. You're human. Don't call me human. I'm just kidding. Okay, everyone. That's what I have for you tonight. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback? How are we feeling? How are we doing? We're happy. Is everybody happy? I know this was a heavy topic tonight, which is why I wanted to end it with something fun because I want you guys to feel good. But as you can see, that took us an hour. So if I had gone through all of it, we would have been here all night, which would have been fine with me. But I assume some of you guys have things to do. Okay, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for providing me with additional wisdom in my life. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming. Make sure you like this video. There's 4 people here and only 2 likes. Come on, guys. Come on. Don't forget to like. Just makes me feel better. Makes YouTube like me more. I don't know. Okay, everybody, until tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about self-worth. We're going to be talking about integration, and we're going to be talking about boundaries from the perspective of me and all of you. So I hope to see you guys all tomorrow. And if you can't make it, that's totally fine. There's no pressure. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys all on the flip side where your alignment begins. Bye.